thereof? Seeing none. Looking for approval of minutes from the previous FSP meeting. Councillor Freeman, seconded by Councillor Veith. All those in favor? Carried. Yada, yada, yada. Section 6 staff reports. East Side Library Project. Presentations from two folks we know well, the CEO and the chair of the board. I'll turn it over to both of you. Plus Steve.
Yes, thank you. I had planned on speaking. Lori is an error in the agenda, but our former councillor, CN, the library board chair, plans on speaking, I believe. Confirmed. So good afternoon, Chair Henry, Mayor Jaworski, council, members of the staff team, library board members, and community. My name is Steve Heldman. I am the Director of Recreation and Facility Services. I am accompanied tonight again by Lori Clark, the CEO of the Waterloo Public Library, Karen Cian, the chair, Sunda Siva, he is the project manager for the East Side Library, Cassandra Pacey, I know Cass there, she's hiding right behind me. She is a financial analyst related to this project. I should also recognize there are several members of the board here to watch the show, as well as several members of our project team. So saying that, if I could figure out how this works, we'd be good. There we go. So to provide some context, as recommended in the 2015 to 2018 strategic plan, it was recognized as the priority being a strong community contributing to a community where our diverse population has a strong sense of belonging and are active and engaged in our community life. And as recommended as part of the 2016 to 2018 budget process, whereas Council directed Waterloo Public Library and city staff to advance the design work for a potential East Side Library, presenting concepts for consideration in advance of delivering a financially sustainable 4-branch library model, we are here this afternoon to seek Council's endorsement to advance the East Side Library project. So in search for a potential library or location, a preliminary site review and selection process has been completed by a project team comprised of both library and city staff. A needs assessment commissioned by the library in 2015 assisted in the development of the criteria to guide our review. The process included a review of options, including, but not limited to, vacant-owned city lands and existing city facilities on the east side of the city that may serve as a potential location for a future East Side Library. The criteria utilized included neighborhood and community access, that's being said proximity to other desirable facilities, amenities, accessible, perhaps on a public transit route, the ease of implementation, minimal obstacles, where we could keep in line with our project schedule. We're looking for a visible and vibrant location, as well as a location that would support the optimal square footage requirements, an open concept, a main floor, modern library service, and options that would be financially feasible, including land, construction, operating, and other costs. So the review indicated that there are currently limited opportunities available on the east side of the city that substantially align with the needs of a new facility. The review did indicate that a viable option to consider may be to locate an East Side Library branch at the Rim Park, Manulife Financial Sportsplex, and Healthy Living Center. The site-specific location, design, and building amenities to be determined via ongoing review and a feasibility study which would include public engagement. It is anticipated that the library, integrated with the current recreation center, will afford opportunities to maximize operational efficiencies and save on ongoing operating costs. So based on the outcome of our review, we are here this afternoon to seek council input on the current project status and site selection, to obtain project funding approval to support the ongoing review and feasibility study, which will again include the public engagement component and present preliminary design options, and to seek council input on advancing the project work plan identified in our report. noting and recognizing that the work we are advancing will inform the development of an operating agreement and a sustainable four-branch library model review, which will assist in guiding future decision-making related to this project. With that, I thank you for your time, and I certainly welcome any questions you may have, or the team, or we can go perhaps directly to Karen. It's at council's wishes. Yes.
So before Councillor Whaley's question, just want to check, Councillor Durrell, pecuniary interests? None? Okay, just wanted to get that out of the way. Councillor Whaley.
So, Steve, you called it a preliminary report, but on reading it, it seems like a lot of work has already been done. According to your list, a site review has been done, a selection process was completed, a community engagement consultation has taken place, a library development report, and needs assessment was done in 2015. You've covered a lot of ground already. And yet you come here today and you say we need $593,000 to rehash a lot of these issues, really. And I don't get why we have to do it again and again at a really big price tag.
No, very fair question, and through you, Chair Henry. To be very clear, the work that has been advanced historically has been the library's work. The work we plan on advancing is specific to the site, the actual amenities and confirmation of same within the building, and the preliminary site-specific design options at the Rim Park facility. That feasibility study, we anticipate it costing no more than $100,000. The other dollars will be leveraged. Any savings of those dollars that we have of the 500 then will be leveraged to go towards final design and perhaps construction costs if there's anything left over. So we're only needing about 100 of the 600 right now at this point in time.
Why didn't the report ask for 100,000 instead of put that big number up there and give us all a bit of a fright?
Through you, Chair Henry, we just thought we'd be simplistic and do it all at one time, and we could advance the project a little more effectively and efficiently without having to report back until we had the public engagement wrapped up.
Looking for other questions for Steve before we go to Karen? Seeing none, we'll see Karen now.
Thank you.
Chair Cian.
Thanks, Sam. I was trying to figure out how to do that, so I'm glad you took care of that. Thank you. Okay, so it's a pleasure to be back in front of you today, and on behalf of the Waterloo Public Library Board. And with me I have three of our wonderful members, John Strong, who's our Chair of Finance, and also Ian Gilchrist and Rachel Harder. And it's been a pleasure to work with this group as we advance a couple different tracks with our library work these days. One is about sustainable funding, and the other is definitely the delivery of the East Side branch. I just want to draw attention to this slide because it's a kind of a special little piece of history, of Waterloo history. And Lori sent it to me last week, and it was neat. The timing is interesting. So in 1963, the Waterloo Public Library Board went in front of City Council and said, you know what, we have a centennial coming up. And a really great way to celebrate that would be to build an amazing, beautiful main branch in the heart of Uptown Waterloo. And this is the sketch. This is a sketch that the public board, the trustees took to the City Council at the time, and it's labeled as the Waterloo Centennial Library to be built in 1967. And as you know, it's a slight variation of what we have right now, but the intent and the spirit of that gorgeous building is alive and well in Uptown Waterloo. And when I was looking at it, I realized this, the synergies are great because we're again at a point that we're celebrating again a major birthday for our country, and here we are again looking to put forward a project to enhance library services in Waterloo. So, key items today to update council on and staff as well. The East Side branch, our participation in the process so far, but also something that Mayor Jaworski and I have been talking about a fair bit is advancing an FCM, a resolution from the Federation of Canadian Municipalities in regard to the e-books. So two key pieces. First of all, the East Side branch, I want to thank Tim, particularly Tim Anderson, and the team, I'm calling them Team Waterloo, because it's been great to work with this crowd so far. Tim has taken such an enormous leadership role in making this project come to life. followed with Mark Dykstra, and of course, we would be probably still sitting in that boardroom spinning our wheels if it wasn't for Steve Heldman. And Lori, that are co-leads on this project. So it's been really exciting, and the work that's been done has been, and I think Councillor Whaley made note of it, we've got a lot of work done in the last, I guess, month and a half, and we're looking forward to the future. We're really proud to deliver, to partner with the city to deliver library services to the residents of the east side of Waterloo. When it comes to the East Side branch, our roles as a library are to really kind of keep an eye and participate fully in the public engagement process. And the public engagement process will be a partnership with the city, but it really is talking to the residents of the East Side as to what they want to see inside the library, where they want it to be inside the Rim Park, and all those bits and pieces of making sure that this beautiful little gem that's going in on the East Side will serve that community in the best possible way possible. And it's really exciting. In our East Side Neighborhood Association, and I know Councillor Freeman's been so involved with them, the East Side Neighborhood Association has been anxious to get going, and they're really thrilled to see this piece progress in order to bring library services up there. So it's going to be exciting to work with them and work with the city and work with the community to make sure this library is exciting and wonderful and suits their purposes. Our other piece is around the sustainability of particularly of the financial model for the entire library system. And Steve mentioned that we're looking at sustainable funding for 4-branch system going forward. And it's our role as the library board, as the governors of the Waterloo Public Library, to ensure that piece of the puzzle remains on the front burner as we work through this system, because the operating budget has not yet been identified. And it won't be until the next iteration of council comes into office. So it'll fall to us to make sure that message is still received loudly and clearly. And the second piece I'd like to talk to you about is the e-book conundrum that we find ourselves on in a daily basis. And I think one of the surprises that came forward with our budget crunch issue was this notion of e-books. And I've confessed to Lori, over the years, I love my e-books, but I used to download them and then I'd let them sit on my iPad and I wouldn't read them, and then they would just go back. Until I found out how e-books actually work. And what happens is that every time somebody signs out an e-book, the library basically gets charged for that e-book. And it's a weird little model, it's a weird little financing model, but luckily libraries across Canada and municipalities across Canada are taking action to right that ship, to smooth out that imbalance. So I just have some information to share with you guys. So first of all, the Waterloo Public Library delivers e-books through a consortium with our partners across the region, so all the other city libraries, also the region of Waterloo. And we actually reach a little further and we work with Perth County. And we've used a service called downloadlibrary.ca. So if anyone's ever used the e-book system, you know what that looks like. You go onto OneDrive and you pull the book down and it loads into your iPad. So please read it if you've downloaded it, because I needed to do that. When I found out that I was doing that, I felt pretty guilty. So, and the other thing is that the shared ebook collection is really heavily used with high numbers, with lots of people's queued up on a wait list. So especially if you're going after a new title or a popular title, you'll know that you often wait. It's not as simple as saying, you know what, I want this book, it's out there in the cloud and I'm going to pull it down and here we go. But there's often waiting lists involved in ebooks as well. And we know from our data, and when we compare to other municipalities, that shockingly, the residents in the city of Waterloo, in particular, show a higher than average use of ebooks. And I think that all makes sense to us, because we're all pretty computer savvy. However, the service level the library is able to offer often can't match what the community asks for. And it's different when you're having, you have your print models, your print books in stock. People seem to have an understanding that, oh, that book will come back on the shelf someday. But the pricing models that publishers have applied to library ebooks create a really strange imbalance. As an example, this is a recent release from James Patterson, and if you know James Patterson, he's quite a prolific writer. Writes a lot of really great mystery books. And if you want to pick up a hard copy at Wordsworth Books, you might pay in the ballpark of maybe $20. And if we wanted to buy them, we may get a little bit of a deal. And if we bought 11 of those books, we'd pay somewhere between $200 and $225. But for an ebook, if we go to buy an ebook of James Patterson's Private Paris, we would pay $110 per ebook versus $20. And then we would only have that for a certain number of checkouts. So whereas if you have a book, you have that book until it falls apart and we decide that it can't be lent anymore, the ebook actually gets removed from our system automatically as soon as those 23 or 26 or X number of months have passed. So then we have to buy it again. It's kind of silly. I can see you're seeing that. and the other kind of funny conundrum on that piece is that if I went on as an individual person and I used my iPad to go onto Kobo or onto one of the book selling sites and I wanted to buy that copy of that book, I would only pay about $14 or $15 for my own private copy. So the publishers have made quite a nice little system for themselves, and which really doesn't make sense when you talk about public access to library books. So the public libraries really, they stand on this, this hill of advocating for fair and flexible pricing for ebooks. The OLA and the Canadian, all the library associations across Canada have been working on this piece for a long time. They advocate for it. They've been advocating to the federal government. And now the FCM, which is the Federation of Canadian Municipalities, of which you guys are a part, has now actually taken up that flag on our behalf as well. And so there is a resolution that is traveling across the country that will help gather enough steam, then that takes that pressure further into the system and gets some change made. So we're looking today for not only just advancement of the new East Side branch idea, but also for council to pass an FCM ebook recommendation. And we've put some information up there. The fairpricingforlibraries.org is the organization that really champions it, but also there's the FCM ebook recommendation that I would offer to council if you'd like to do what you would like to do with that, Mayor Jaworski. Any questions?
Questions for Karen? Councillor Whaley?
I was puzzled to see how this related to your ebook information related to the recommendation, which has to do with releasing money for the new build.
So this would be an additional.
So I didn't see this recommendation in the minutes or in my notes, or so was this something that you just brought today without it being part of the agenda?
It's not part of the East Side branch piece, but we were asked to bring it forward in terms of what the city could do to help us.
So did other members, this is the first moment I've heard about this. So why am I only seeing it now? No papers in front of me, no, this kind of coming right out of the blue.
I'll look over to the mayor since I think he's got some things to say.
Well, I think, to help shed light on this is something that has come up at other municipalities. It came up at FCM. There's the website, the Fair Pricing Group. I signed up for that, the information that they have there a number of months ago. And this was something when I first saw it, I thought, well, instead of the council taking a look at it, it really should be the library board that takes a look at it and has a solid understanding, because it seems so grossly unfair for electronic books to be priced like this, but it would make sense for the library and the board to actually take a deep look at that to see if it truly is impacting our library system the way it is. And so what I asked is for them to give thought to that, and then this is just, they're coming out at a fortuitous time with respect to the East Side Library, having assessed that probably over the past couple board meetings, and it's stunning, actually, the pricing of electronic books and how they're being charged to our library systems, and this is happening. I've seen some resolutions from other municipalities just over the past few weeks on this, so we're right in time with that.
Karen, can you move back or forward a slide to the actual resolution?
There you go.
There we go, just so we got the right thing on the screen. Councillor Whaley, did you want more on this?
Yeah, I guess my question is actually to you, Mayor Jaworski. This comes before us right out of the blue. Right during her presentation, she was off topic on what the actual story was, and we don't even know about this, and now we're supposed to expect I mean, it's, the recommendation is what it is, but shouldn't it be on an agenda? Shouldn't there be a staff report? Shouldn't we have some heads up at least that this stuff's coming our way?
Yeah, the way I would see it is putting as a notice of motion on a future council meeting for us to deal with it. So it's just the board reporting into us. And so then we'd put on notice of motion.
Well, and that was going to be my suggestion, so I'm glad the potential mover of the notice is suggesting it as well. So we can have the clerk and staff maybe take this back, because my thought is there's probably an actual FCM resolution underlying that middle line that could just simply be attached or something to the agenda next week. Shouldn't take too long to get out in time for Wednesday, and since we've heard about it from the library, hopefully it won't take too much of our time the following week to pull that together. I know next week is full, but if not, then it punts to July, and I really don't know what much is different. Is there more on this punting it as a notice of motion, or is this back to the main item before us? On the notice of motion, or? Okay, so let's see if there's any more questions for Karen, and then I'll look for a mover and seconder of the motion before us. Seeing none, thank you very much. Moved by Councillor Freeman, seconded by Councillor Veith. Comments, Councillor Freeman?
All I would say is that I actually see this ebook recommendation as folding into this, because the whole piece is around looking at ways out of operational efficiencies, and this is clearly a place where the city can support getting to that. So notwithstanding that, I think it is right to do it as a notice of motion, but in my lens, I was thinking of it in that regard, because the motion we're dealing with also deals with undertaking that work associated with operational efficiency.
I just want to say thank you to the board chair and the board members for coming today and for bringing this. I knew this was coming, but I didn't see it as something that we would vote on today. It was just something, information mostly for council and for the community. So anyway, thank you all for all your hard work, and looking forward to a great Eastside Branch.
Councillor Whaley, then.
So with respect to the motion at hand, the whole process has really been an excellent consultation process with the community, how the city and the library board worked hand in hand on this to come to so far has been terrific. What we've learned from it now is that we do want a library at Rim Park. There's some sentiment in the community that there might be room right within the buildings at Rim Park to fold this in, and that's exciting to think about. However, I can't support the motion because so much of the recommendation is redoing some of the stuff that's been done before. Staff think that it's a $100,000 job to do next, and so I can't support $593,000. I would support $100,000 if that motion came forward at a later date.
Mayor?
Well, a couple of items, certainly to echo Councillor Freeman's point of our 4-branch library system that we hope to have. It's actually a 5-branch system because our electronic branch services a huge number of people. And so seeing it operate in an efficient way and then be gouged by electronic books seems so unfair. So I do think this all fits together in the sustainable funding model that we're talking about. With respect to the design and that, I think this project has been ongoing or in hopes for many years, and I think that this recommendation sets the trajectory for a whole lot of work to happen on that, and I don't think anybody here at the table questions that there's a need that we've saved for it, and to ensure it's properly funded for a trajectory, and it doesn't necessarily have to come back to us every handful of months. It's on a trajectory. We're going to build it.
No, Councillor Freeman? Oh, Councillor Durrell.
You're going to say my name.
I never really saw your hand.
Do you
I was like,
remember my
do you
name?
want to speak? Are you going to do? Okay,
Who
so
are you?
how about we, yeah.
Thank you, through you, Chair Henry. You know what? I'm just really excited. Great, thanks for the information on ebooks, but let's focus on the East Side Library here, and this is a really big day for the City of Waterloo and for Eastbridge, and I take my hat off to everybody that's been working to make this happen. Mayor Jaworski said that we've got the money there. We've been waiting for the right opportunity. Today's that day, people. This is a really exciting day, and I'm excited for this council. I'm excited for the board. I'm excited for the library. And so, great. Let's vote.
Councillor Freeman, and then I'll say a couple of things.
Well, and just for clarity in terms of the pricing, like the work that's been done in the past isn't the work that we need to do now. The work that we need to do now is actually to undertake a request for proposal to go out to firms to undertake preliminary designs, and those designs will determine whether this branch could be located within the structure, whether it's an infill project on the side of the structure, and it will provide design alternatives for public input. And right now, the needs assessment was done by the library, but that's all it was is our services needed on the west side? If the answer is yes, what kind of service would you like to see? But what we're talking about here is actually undertaking a significant public process to start unpacking what does the delivery look like, what does access look like, what do things like operational hours look like, and all that kind of stuff. And I know that there are folks within my ward and within your ward, Councillor Willey, that are waiting to actually participate more fully in that work. So I know that to go out to the professional realm and start undertaking this level of feasibility study is a fairly significant undertaking.
I'll go to Commissioner Dykstra.
Through Councillor Hendry to rest of council, just to reaffirm to Councillor Freeman's words about the perspective, a lens around the overall project budget being close to $8 million, and we look at 5% being assessed to this preliminary design phase. That's in the range of $400,000. So we'll see that in the spectrum of scopes. I just want to advise council of that as we move forward, and reaffirming what Councillor Freeman noted. Thank you.
Yeah, and it can be unpredictable at times when you do some preliminary designs and options and send them out for public comment. You may need to do minor revisions, you may need to do substantial revisions, and those are sometimes difficult to predict, and we want to be able to respond to public input as these move forward. On the branch itself, I appreciate all the work that the board's done, I appreciate all the work that staff have done, and I appreciate all of the work that the community will do in working with us to be able to make this a reality. A couple of points I'd like to raise as we move from phase 1 to phase 2 on this in terms of my own expectations of feasibility analysis as these get crafted. Let's really think about how we can minimize ongoing operating costs for everybody involved. The advantage of co-location is also an opportunity of co-location, and I hope that we don't see operational details as siloed between Rim Park and between the public library, that there may be efficiencies in terms of staff complement and other pieces that could reduce the challenge the library would have in terms of operating this, and also net the city and the public at large some savings on this very important initiative. So let's use the opportunities before us to be able to be as efficient and effective as possible in doing all of this. So I'm seeing lots of head nods across the way, so that's good. And with that, I'll look for a vote on what's before us. So all those in favor, Council? Those opposed? Councillor Whaley. No, and appreciate, Councillor Whaley, you raising this. It's good for us to pin these things down a little bit more, and your questions certainly did that. Next on our agenda is the appointment of an Integrity Commissioner. Moved by Councillor Whaley, seconded by Councillor Freeman. I think just for clarity, Madam Clerk, we're really commissioning the core services today, and if there are other services later, that's something that staff would bring back to us on the optional side.
That is correct.
Yeah, but just to make sure we're clear on what we're voting on today. because I just had to pin down the wording when I was seeing it the first time. Okay, so with that, all those in favor? Carried. Woolwich Street Tender Award. Any questions from council here? I look for Councillor Freeman to move it, Councillor Whaley to second it. No comments from council. This is certainly a substantial project as we move the east side of the city into the 21st century.
Just the comment is,
Yeah.
it's been the 20th century country road, and we're trying to push it into the 21st century, and this spending will make that so.
I think as people read about this work and see the dollar signs attached, it shows roads are not cheap. When you are doing substantial underground and above ground work, they cost a lot of money to be able to build out the city. Okay, so moved and seconded, comments done. All those in favor? Carried. Facility refurbishments and workspace expansion. Councillor Veith moving. Mayor Jaworski seconding. Any questions for Karen? Council? Mayor?
I think really just a comment. I think this is just a great opportunity for us to have the proper facilities to encourage people to leave the car at home, to take alternative transportation to the uptown area in our own building, and to be able to facilitate that with other facilities for our staff. So just thanks for that.
Yeah, the TDM initiatives here are a very small chunk relative to it, but can have a significant culture shift on what happens here for employees at City Hall. Other questions, Council? Certainly, we don't very often bring our space up from the 80s into the 21st century, and perhaps even earlier in some cases. So appreciate the work ahead and staff taking an innovative approach to working with someone over 4 years to manage this project right. So appreciate the work that you've done on this. It's been moved and seconded. Any further question or comment, Council? Seeing none, all those in favor? Carried. Next, we have the Canada 150 Infrastructure Project Intake 2 candidates. I think this is, we had Karen see and talk earlier about Canada at 100 and Canada at 150. This is specifically related to Canada at 150. Questions, Council, on this? I'll look for a mover. I'll get moved and then we'll do that. Mayor Jaworski, Melissa Durrell, second. Councillor Durrell, question?
I'm curious as to all the way that they're lined up, A, B, and C. I'm more involved with Waterloo Park and Button Factory. I did sit on the library board for many years, and I'm wondering if what are our chances of getting all three? What are our chances of getting all two? Or is it more likely we're getting one?
Through you, Councillor Henry, to Councillor Durrell. In past experience, we will consider ourselves very lucky if we get one of the intake applications. I'm not aware of any municipality that's received more than one at a time. For intake 1, we actually received our third priority as what we were awarded for the Trans-Canada Trail resurfacing. So if that provides some context on what we could expect.
Thank you for the answer. Not what I wanted to hear. Okay, thanks. Sir, fingers?
Yeah, well, when the federal pot in the region is only so large, I think we would consider ourselves lucky to have one. I think we would consider ourselves ecstatic and over the moon to receive more than that. Although I'm not sure our reserve balances would think the same thing if we did achieve more than one of these. Any other questions, Council? Councillor Veith?
Through you, Chair Henry, what's the timing on it? Do you think we'll know back?
To you, Councillor Henry, Councillor Veith. At this time, there is no established deadlines of when we will hear back from the federal government. Again, going back to intake 1, we applied early June last year and we received information in the fall. So I would expect something similar.
That'll mean a rapid turnover in 2017 into substantial completion in 2018. So yeah, hopefully we hear soon. And I hear from reading this that certainly regardless, what we're also doing with this motion is advancing some of the work at the main library because there are some critical components that need to be advanced. so that the AC keeps running, the heat keeps running, and we can keep having people go into the library so they don't have to resort to really expensive e-books just because they can't come in and get the physical ones. It was more than just that reason. So it's been moved and seconded. If there's no further question or comment, Council, all those in favor? Carried. That takes us to an incredibly exciting report on debt and assessment growth impact on operating and capital. This, Council, arose from conversations and questions during the budget process for what would taking on more debt mean. I certainly found it interesting to learn a bit more about how we got where we are and the impacts of any particular borrowing on tax rate or reserve or future capital fund profiles. There's no magic bullet in here. No. Yeah, money costs money, whether you spend it now or spend it later. It's just the timing on what you can do when and then later varies. So you advance something, it means you can't do as much later. Just to summarize your incredible work that's sitting here. Any questions, Council, here? So I do see a suggestion that we direct staff in terms of including consideration of debt going forward as we work on a variety of strategies, including a long-term financial plan arising from asset management and parking, given this information we're seeing. So that's part of the recommendations before it, so I'll look for a mover of that. Councillor Freeman, Councillor Veith, any further questions? Seeing none? Oh, seeing Freeman?
Well, it's just, I appreciate the report because I was asking the question about doing debentures rather than doing this. So it was helpful to see that. I'll be forthright to say I still worry about, the burden to the broader citizenry right now with regard to the cost of running the city, and was looking for other options. But the report was helpful, so I appreciate that.
I think it's always important that we're looking at every tool in our toolbox, and this can be a part of our toolbox going forward, but it has to be really strategic and focused to be effective on delivering for our citizens. Good comment, and certainly a healthy conversation and bit of work for our understanding of what's in our toolbox. So appreciate finance staff's work on this. With that, moved and seconded. All those in favor? Carried. And that takes us to LED streetlights and broadband readiness supplemental information prepared by Rosalind Todd and Philippa. So I look to the staff table. Are there any preliminary comments you have prior to questions from Council?
Through you, Chair Henry, I think we're ready for any questions you may have.
Questions from Council? Councillor Freeman?
It's not a question per se, but I did really appreciate the depth of this report, and I felt heard, in terms of us asking for you to look at specific things, and I could see where you did that, and it seems counterintuitive to not do something that's innovative, but I think that you did provide some really good rationale for why you're not recommending it at this time. And I just wanted to say thanks for all the work you did on this report.
Well, I think that's exactly what struck me too, is the amount of the amount of opportunities that are out there, but you have to grab the right one, and making an investment in something that you don't have projects for and things like that. And being up at the cottage this weekend and having like a very slow internet speed, it reminded me of the old days of having a modem on top of a computer, an external modem. And if you recall, those were 256 or 512 kilobits per second. And if what this equates to is narrowband technology, it's kilobits per second, and so it's like dial-up. So it is fairly low rate of speed, of transmission speed, and hearing also that our advanced meter project works over a wireless network today, but that's the Waterloo North Hydro fan network, I think. Is that correct? Yeah. And then another local company, a new startup, 11X, they've put up a tower on in the Northdale neighborhood, and with that one tower, they blanket 5 kilometers all around, so essentially the entire city of Waterloo with one single tower. And so innovative technologies are coming out like that, and there's probably a possibility to work with some of those startups on projects as we actually assess projects, put money towards them, and resources towards them, and that might be the proper time. But anyway, thank you very much for the report.
Other questions or comments, Council? I'll echo then what I heard from Councillor Freeman and Mayor Jaworski. I think even just looking at the dimmer switch option, which is an incredibly low-tech, or sort of non-innovative sounding piece, given there isn't certification for how that could even be billed from hydro, the opportunity to recoup that cost is certainly not definite. It's far from definite, but the payback period for that with all of the options, if it were able to be recovered on that, would entice me to look at this. But there's no guarantee of that. And that's a problem. I'm not spending money hoping for dollars. I would want to spend money knowing that we're getting an investment back, because that's what prudence looks like to me as we seek to be strategically innovative and not just jump at something because it sounds like it could be good. We got to have stuff in the pipeline to make it work. So with that, I'll look for a motion then. The motion's on the floor, but I'll look for it to be moved. Mayor Jaworski, Councillor Freeman. Any further debate, Council? Seeing none, all those in favor? Carried. So consideration of notice of motion given at previous meeting, we have none. Notice of motion, we heard one, and we'll see that come back in due course. Communications and correspondence, we have done nothing from the region. Unfinished business, we have none. New business, Council, Councillor Veith had something to read. I forget what it was, but I remember you had something that you wanted
Thank you,
to read.
Chair Henry. It's June is it's just an announcement about June is Aboriginal Month, History Month. Tomorrow, June 21st, is National Aboriginal Day, which recognizes the cultures and contributions of the First Nations, Inuit, and Métis peoples of Canada. This year marks the 20th annual National Aboriginal Day in Canada and will be the first time the day is celebrated by the City of Waterloo. The celebration will take place tomorrow from 6:30 till 8:30 p.m. at the Waterloo Public Library. The event will be delivered in partnership with Waterloo Public Library, Imaginative Film Festival, and will feature several short films made by Canadian filmmakers, including Lisa Jackson, Bear Witness, and Shane Belcourt. The film screenings will also include the premiere of 2 new heritage moments from Heritage Canada and a presentation delivered by the Waterloo Aboriginal Educational Centre. The event is free and open to the public, and all are encouraged to attend. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Veith, and that reminds me, I will be heading to the film festival at the library tomorrow. I think it sounds like an excellent opportunity. I think this is also an excellent opportunity as we hear about National Aboriginal Month to recognize, of course, that our council meeting and much of our city is convened here on the traditional territories of the Neutrals, the Anishinaabe, and the Hadenoshawnees, as well as territory granted to the Six Nations of the Grand River. So that's something we don't do often enough, but this is an opportunity for us, I think, appropriately to say that a day away from National Aboriginal Day. So with that, Council, is there any other business or questions? Seeing none, I'll look for a motion to adjourn. Motion by Councillor Freeman, seconded by Councillor Veith. All those in favor? We stand adjourned.